Hello, family. I'm back. This is Kimberly Purpose, and welcome to my channel. I found another interesting article on Indian country today, and I thought I would share it with you guys. And hopefully, you all can hear me. I don't have my speaker on, but I guess I'm gonna continue on. But anyway, this particular article was written by Vincent Schilling and was published on July 14, 2017. I thought this was quite interesting. It says here, there are 8 big lies storybooks tells you about natives. I just thought it would be quite interesting to read some of these interesting things that we don't know about or hear about in our history books. It says here, uh, the subtitle says, History books written by non-natives don't share the truth when it comes to natives. Interesting. It was published on July 14, 2007. It says, do history books written by white folks tell the truth about natives? We think not. Here are just some of the lies they tell. Okay, this even though this article is about the natives, which are tend to be the Mongoloid Indians, it does touch on our history as well. I saw the 8. I skimmed through the article and I already saw the 8 lies that are mentioned. The one that pertains to us is Aborigines at the very end, which I think is the most and biggest lie of all. And personally, I thought that should have been number 1, but I guess he saved it to the end to make sure that everybody will read the article. But anyway, the first lie is that Columbus never landed in the upper 49 ever. Okay, let's see what it says here. It says every year across the country, countless elementary school students recite in 1492, Columbus sailed the ocean blue, and many perform a play about him discovering the Indians in America. The thing is, Columbus never landed in what would become the United States. He actually landed in the Caribbean. Wow. See? Okay. Yeah, for my studies, I saw that he landed in the Caribbean too. He didn't land in the United States like some people believe. And here's the artwork right here. It says the painting shows Columbus on the deck of Santa Maria. See, there it is right there. And then let's go on to the next one. The second lie is that basically everything about Pocahontas. Pocahontas was about 8 years old when John Smith arrived and was later married to another young Indian warrior. She also had a child that was given away before she married John Rolfe. Okay, that's the story that they say. So let's see what the real answer is to this. Um, let's see what it says. It says here, the answer today is sorry, Disney and many incorrectly written textbooks. Pocahontas never fell in love with John Smith. Okay. According to a tribal oral histories, as well as the true story of Pocahontas by members of the Mattaponi tribe, Pocahontas' original young native husband was killed, and Pocahontas' newborn was given to relatives before she was forced into captivity at about 15 to 16 years old. Wow. I didn't know that. Okay, this is new information. Plus, they need to darken her skin, so she wasn't that pale. But anyway, let's go on. Disney always gray wash stuff, so let's continue on. Everybody knows she was darker than that. And plus, East Coast Indians were Aborigines. They weren't Mongoloids. But let's continue. The first, Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving was named after the entire tribe massacre, not a peaceful meal between pilgrims and Indians. In 1621, Wampanoag Indians investigated guns and cannon fires at a pilgrim settlement to see them celebrate a successful harvest. The Indians, all male warriors, were fed as a gesture of peace. The act was not repeated annually. Wow. So let's hear the truth. It says the truth. In 1636, let's continue. It says, when a murdered man was discovered in a boat of Plymouth, English Major John Mason collected his soldiers and killed and burned down the wigwams of the neighbors. Pocahontas Indians were also blamed for the murder. Wow. Let me tell you what happened. The following day, Plymouth Governor William Bradford applauded the massacre of 400 Indians, including women and children. The governor of Massachusetts Bay Colony, William Newell, complained for that day forth shall the day of celebration and thanksgiving for subduing the Paraguays. For the next 100 years, every Thanksgiving day ordained by governor was an honor of the bloody victory. Thank God that the battle had been won. Wow. See, they try to claim that it was all peaceful, and it was never peaceful. That's why Thanksgiving is never a good holiday. It's a holiday that should not be celebrated, especially among indigenous people. And unfortunately, a lot of people who are descendants of Aborigines who are still thinking they're African Americans and from Africa, a lot of them still celebrate Thanksgiving here in the Americas. And unfortunately, I still do too. But I also talked to my son. Maybe we talk about changing the name instead of calling it Harvest Day or something, or other than Thanksgiving, um, or something. Because this is a terrible. It's like a ritual type holiday. Celebrating 400 people getting killed. That's a lot of people. And see, that's the gray washing was talking about. It shows that the Caucasians haven't done anything wrong, but the truth is they have. And history books don't show the negative part of it. They make it seem like everybody were, they didn't do anything wrong. Everybody got along. Thanksgiving. But let's continue. Wow, this is so sad. And like I said, this picture is totally gray wash, whitewash. The Indians were Aborigines on the East Coast. They were much darker than this. And they still, had this narrative that they were mongoloid, but they were more like people like me that were Aborigine. If they were on the East Coast, they were definitely Aborigines, not mongoloids. Let's continue. But that's sad. And then here it is, another lie. It says here, another myth. What is a redskin? It says, it was only 5 generations ago that a white man could get money for one of his grandfather's scalps. Oh my gosh, wrote 1491 comedian Dallas Goldtooth on Facebook. At this time, it was Redskin was used to describe us. In his post, Goldtooth also includes a newspaper clipping from after the U.S. Dakota Wars of 1862. The state reward for dead Indians have increased to $200 for every redskin sent to purgatory. Wow, that is terrible. Oh, this is disgusting. Genocide. Mm-mm-mm. And that should be on history books, and they need to show the Greys, pictures of the Greys doing this. Now, that's what should be shown. All the evil deeds they did. It needs to catch up with them. That's why this plague is happening here in the Americas. On them, their punishment. Karma has a way of eating people. But anyway, but here it is right here. And I think this is interesting. This is a like some sort of artifact. It says a screenshot of Goldtooth Facebook page with the 1863 newspaper clipping of his comment. that sparked discussion on Facebook. Wow. Here it is right here. The state reward for dead Indians have increased to 200 for every redskin sent to purgatory. Wow. This is terrible. And it's documentation of the genocide right here. Mm. Okay, let's continue. Really sad. It's terrible. And you know what's so sad about it is that some people are still woke, not woke. Some people are still sleeping, brainwashed to this great supremacy. Don't realize that when they talk about all these killings and genocide, it didn't, it wasn't just the Mongoloid Indians. It was also the Aborigines, which are the AKA African Americans. They don't realize that these stories are talking about ourselves. The Indians were us, just like Malcolm X and Martin Luther King and Baldwin. They all mentioned that the Indians were us. But let's continue. It says here, Lincoln ordered a mass execution. Okay, this is another myth or something. It says, in the fall of 1862, native tribes in Minnesota waged war on white settlers out of the frustration from starvation, mistreatment, and harsh condition. After soldiers captured over 300 Indians, President Abraham Lincoln approved the largest mass execution in U.S. history on 38 Dakota men. On the day of their hangings, an estimated 4,000 spectators watched them hung. The bodies were later taken and used as medical cavitators. Oh gosh, this is so disgusting. Oh my gosh. Caucasoids need to be ashamed of their history. They just need to be right in front of their face so they can know that there ain't no that they're not pure and godlike like the when everybody call them white when they're not. You're the gray race for sure. This is terrible. Now let's continue. Lincoln ordered a mass execution. That's so sad. I didn't know Lincoln did that. Here it is right here. Here's the pictures that supports this. It says here, Library of Congress prints photographs, Division, Washington, D.C. A print marking the execution of 38 Dakota men in December 1862. They were sentenced November 5th, 1862. Wow. Mean. And here it is. They showing them being hung. 4,000 people appear for that. Wow. That's terrible. All these people here just to look at that they should be ashamed of themselves. I didn't know Lincoln ordered that. I did not know Abraham Lincoln, did that. And he's known for freeing the slaves, but I didn't know he killed the Indians. But let's go on to the next one. It says Hitler studied reservations. That's another. Let's see what it says. It says here, there are many accounts of Nazis, Hitler's studying Indian reservation for guidance and planning encampment for the Jewish. Perhaps Leah Mandelbaum says that was best in her article found in the Jewish journal entitled Hitler's Inspiration and Guide, the Native American Holocaust. Okay, that's interesting. From 1863 to 1868, the U.S. military persecuted and imprisoned 9,500 Navajo. Oh my goodness, 500 Mescalero Apache living under the armed guards in the holes of the ground, and extremely scarce ration. It is no wonder that more than 3,500 Navajo and Mescalero Apache men, women, and children died while in the concentration camp. That's disgusting. And they had a concentration camp. I know Navajo, those were Mongoloid Indians. Yeah, it's terrible. I believe they were further west. Yeah, I'm looking at the dates. That's when they were starting to go west, further west. It says here, during the film, I learned about something that shook me to my core that I had not discovered before. I learned that genocidal mentality and acting of U.S. policymakers will find similar expression years later when Nazi under Hitler studied the plans of Boris Redondo to design the concentration camp for Jews. Mm, that's it's very sick. Let's go on down. Let's skip on down. That is really mind boggling. It says here there were 567 federally, that's an S, this is an S truth. There are 567 um, federally recognized tribes in the U.S. And says, when I was a student in high school, I learned that George Washington saw Indians in Virginia and possibly heard once or twice about the Cherokee Trail of Tears. But in 18 years of public school, a few private Catholic schools, not once did I learn about the multitude of tribes, languages, or cultures involved in this country. Not once. That is true. Because I agree with this article. It's true they don't mention hardly none of this. They mention right now that there are 567 federally recognized tribes in the U.S., but in the history books you don't hear about that. You don't, and then when you hear readings and stuff about it, you only hear about the five recognized tribes, and that's it. But it's way more than that. And really, I think I read another book or somewhere, another Scarlet Journal article or article that I read. Might not been Scarlet Journal article, but it might have just been um, an encyclopedia, I believe. I'm not sure, but it was an article I read a while back that said that there were thousands of tribes in the U.S. So this doesn't even this is barely half of them right here. If it was that many. So the federal recognized us still don't cover all the tribes that were originally here. It's just so much history and so much language and so much culture that has been lost because there has been a massive cover up of what actually took place in this country. No, trying to hide the Aborigines, the truth that the African Americans are the Aborigine Indians here in the United States, and the genocides of all these Indians. Both the Aborigines and the natives, who are the Mongoloids. Covering up the history. It's really sad. But let's continue. It says here, unwritten history of African Americans and Native. This is the big part that I was talking about, which pertains to us. Um, this should have been number one, but I guess he afraid that nobody read the article. So I guess he say the best for last. Now this one says here, Dr. Alicia Coleman is a assistant professor of Black history, American history at the University of Delaware. She is African American and Native American. She needs to go on and say Aboriginal American, but I guess people wouldn't understand her. The Wampanoag, she's a Wampanoag, and says right here, due to her ancestry, she has done a lot of thinking about the relations and interrelations of Black Indians and whites on the East Coast, primarily in Virginia. It says right here, the first slaves in Americas were Native Americans. See? I like that she points that out. Way to go. That's the truth. It says the first slaves in Americas were Native Americans. And this business that Native Americans die off as a result of disease and war is inaccurate. Thank you. I'm glad she pointed that out in this article. Those who were not only the reason for their demise, there were the Indian slave trade, which is something we do not discuss a lot, she writes. And that's true. They don't want to mention it. They still want to push this narrative that all slaves were from Africa. And that's not true. Majority of the slaves that were taking place was here in the Americas. And the slave trade was taught in reverse. They say that all the Africans came over here with nationality. They took all the Native Americans from here and sent them all over. That's what happened. There were probably a few African slaves, but it was not nearly as many as they claim it was. You know, majority of African Americans, we are the Aborigines, we are the indigenous people here. And I'm glad she points this out. I'm glad Dr. Coleman points this out in her article. I love this. And then she wrote the book, the dissertation into a book, The Blood That Stays Pure. You go, girl. I'm thinking about doing a dissertation too, you all. I'm on, on this topic, similar topic, you know, but I think mine's going to be more about the identity crisis. But this is really amazing. But yeah, I guess this is a picture of her right here. But let me continue. It says Coleman also writes about Walter Plecker, a man who once worked as the first registrar of Virginia's Bureau of Vital Records, a man who literally changed races in Virginia's birth certificate. His action has been coined the pencil genocide. And that's exactly what he did. This man, here he is right here. He is a tyrant. He's the one that destroyed everybody's heritage. This fool right here. Thanks a lot, Mr. Peckler. How to relate your history. And that way you don't have no identity. See what it feels like. But anyway, let's continue. He is terrible. This is what he did. Similarly, William Lawrence Cass, the author of Black Indians, have written how entire sites of blacks and Indians come together as a strong force against European settlers, including huge fractures of black Seminoles who created created nearly impenetrable forces against these soldiers, foolish enough to try to break into Florida and suffer miserable defeats over the years. Wow, see? This is something you never hear about. It's the Seminoles. You're not going to hear that in the books. And then some of the paintings, I saw another article somewhere where they had paintings of the Seminole and they made them look so pale and made them look like they're Italians or Greys, instead of what they were. They are Aborigines. That's what they were. Aborigine Indians. The East Coast were filled with Aborigine Indians. All they did was enslave them, killed them or enslaved them, one. But that's the ending of this article. I actually enjoyed this article. And there's some references below and some more related articles at the bottom. But this is a great article, very good. And this is Peckler right here. Peckler was determined to expunge Indians from Virginia's official records. Yeah, great job, mister. And see, and that's what all this paper genocide has really messed it up for the Aborigines. That's why it's very hard for a lot of people who are descendants of slaves to be able to trace their indigenous roots. Just people in general, Aborigines, the aka African Americans, have a hard time tracing the roots because of this. And so, yeah, personally, I think we should all go back to our indigenous roots. Because it's just a known fact that they captured all the slaves and it was very few Africans that were brought over. So we know we're Indians. The trick is the hardest part is finding out which tribe. But I think we should all be acknowledged and identified and recognized as Aborigines. That's who we really are. But anyway, this is the conclusion of this article. I actually enjoyed it. It's a great article. It's a great read. I'm going to put a link to this article at the very bottom. I thought this would be fun to learn about the truth, the myths, and then read about the actual truth of what actually took place and how it took place from a non-Caucasian point of view, a non-European point of view. More from the Aborigines and the Mongoloid Indians and see what they had to say as opposed to everything being so brainwashed. But please like this video and thumbs up. And don't forget to subscribe. Leave your comments below. I would love to hear from you. And don't forget to check me out at Black Junction TV. I'm putting some videos over there. And I look forward to hearing from you. Until next time, Peace and be blessed. Bye bye.